Yo, you know what it is. A2D Birds of a Feather. Like, subscribe, follow. Let's get it. Let's go.
That's my baby. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they did it! They did it!
Left,
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Birds of a Feather. Birds of a Feather on A2D Radio. Brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. We're on a special night. I can't even call it a special night because this was our original night when we first started back on Tuesday for this week. So let's just call it back on the OG night, Tuesday night, coming at you. We're talking draft with the Eagles, free agency also will be in there. But we are here, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Twitch, the whole nine. You know where to get it. So it's myself. We got Pete. What up, Pete? And we've got Jeff down the bottom here. And Chrome will be joining us. I know you don't see him on the screen right now. He is running late, so he will be joining us soon. Don't worry. He's back from Disney, and he didn't bring me my churro, but since it was his birthday, I'll let him go. I'll let it go. But we are brought to you by, like I said, Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. Find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton. SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Also brought to you by the Counseling Center at Sunrise Detox. You know, many of us in our families, we deal with mental health and addiction issues. If you need mental health therapy or addiction detox, please call 856-651-8117 and tell them that Tom sent you. Our poll question, guys, tonight, like I said, we're talking draft. So we're going to start getting into draft talk here on the show. And tonight we're going to kick it off by saying Kyle Pitts should be the Eagles' top target with their 6th overall pick. Agree or disagree? That poll question was brought to you by bodycheckwellness.com. Promo code A2D for 20% off. So we've got that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about NFL free agency, all the recent signings. The Eagles had, I don't know if you call it a big one. I guess you kind of can because it could have implications for the draft. But Eagles did sign a backup quarterback in Joe Flacco, the former Super Bowl MVP. We'll talk about that. And a few days ago, we did sign a safety. Oh, my God. And I didn't think we'd be able to get this guy for this cheap. Anthony Harris, former Minnesota Viking. We will talk about that signing as well. I know I was pretty amped for that. So we'll go into that, talk about other signings from around the league, and then we'll end the show with no huddle, talk about any quick hitting topics you want to talk about in sports or life, whatever you want to do. So, poll question. Jeff, what do you say? Do you think Kyle Pitts is worthy of the number 6 pick overall in the NFL draft this year? Or let's expand that too. Do you think even he should be considered a top 5 to 10 pick as well? What do you say?
Now, the wording of the question is Kyle Pitts should be the top target with the 6th overall pick. Unfortunately, actually, the way the wording is, I'm going to have to disagree with the poll. I'll say Kyle Pitts has been an impressive talent so far heading into this April's draft. I would say he had an impressive 40 time, clocking at like 4.4 unofficially this past week. And I'll say he brings a tremendous amount of talent. 6 foot frame, he tremendous upside catching the football. But I think the Eagles have to do their due diligence and they have to look into all these prospects. Just because Pitts, I'll say right now, looks like the guy that can be a tremendous talent, for this offense. And I'll say throw out the tight end being labeled a tight end. I know everyone says that you can't pick a tight end that high. He's not a traditional tight end, as we have discussed previously on this show. But if Pitts, Chase, and Smith are all available there at 6, I just don't know if they can pass up one of the other two before Pitts unless they do their homework first. So right now, I would say I have to disagree with the poll just because it's still too early to see. We still have to see some of these guys' pro days and what they do. So right now, I'm going to have to disagree.
Okay. All right. That's a sound reason. What you got, Pete?
I think this is all, well, I won't say hype, but my man ran a 4.46 yesterday. So it's kind of right at the front of your mind. But no. I mean, I vehemently 100%, 1,000% stomp a mud hole in this one, bitch. Because no. I mean, because I feel like, don't get me wrong, Pitts is a matchup problem. But I feel like, I mean, as the closer and closer that we get to it, I think it's for me, it's chasing everybody else. I feel like once we get to Jamar Chase's pro day, I think it's March 29th, like next week, if I'm not mistaken. You need if you get Jamar Chase, I think he's the best offensive player on your team day one, hands down. Like he's the biggest matchup problem. You need elite talent. We're talking about Julio-esque, but this not as big. But we have to see it. But I'm not so pissed whatsoever. I know what's going on. Audio. But yeah, I'm not sold on the only option. That's kind of how this whole question does read. It is. Now if Chase is off the board, if Smith is off the board, then yeah. I mean, but. And I see the fans saying that half of it. So it doesn't matter. You playing, getting another tight end, aka tight end, more positions than that. The lower rate production with Decker. You know what I mean? So I'm not a firm believer. You already know how I feel. So I mean that's kind of beating up a burning bush. You know what I mean? So. But that's, I mean, I agree with Kyle. I mean, I agree with Jeff. My bad. I agree with Jeff.
Become Kyle.
But nah, I mean, you can't go into it so close-minded. You know what I mean? I really hope that they have everything looking at it from a front perspective where they'll let the board come to them. And then they get to run on the QBs like everybody's saying that there's going to be 4 or 5 QBs going to where now Atlanta's mocking QBs. You're going to have they may be on the board and having their pick of Chase, Smith, and Pitts.
And Surtain.
So Surtain, listen, people, I hate to bust your bubble. Surtain is not worth the top 10 pick. He's not worth the top 10 pick at all. I'm being honest. He's not worth the top 10 pick. If I'm going to be top 10, I'd rather take a chance on Caleb Farley.
Yeah, I don't think any of the corners are worth top 10 picks, to be honest.
No.
I think the value is you start to get outside top 10, the mid of the first round. That's the value looking at the board. But I'm going to agree with you guys and say disagree to the poll. He shouldn't be the top target. Along with, I know that our boy Jake, the LSU fan at A2D, him and I have been team embrace the chase for ever since the season ended, or it was going close to ending. So I do agree with you guys that it's Chase. To me, he's the guy I've wanted, and film study supports that. The more I watch him, the more I'm just more sold. So I'm going with Chase, but I'm still going to say that if Chase is off the board, Pitts absolutely should be considered over any other wide receiver. Any other wide receiver. And I know that there are some concerns here. People mention his injury history. People mention his stats of not having 800 yards. I don't care about the stats because he was lined up different spots, asked to do different things. I don't care about the stats. I don't follow a player's stats all the time because I I am more so focused on what they show me on film. And what Pitts shows me on film is that he's a tight end by label because they have to assign a player a position. But between all that, like he can line up on the outside. He can absolutely line up on the outside. And if you see him line up on the outside in the slot against top college corners, he dominates them. Absolutely dominates them. So there's no question in my mind that if you draft him, he can be your X receiver, just like Chase would be. And Chase can line up in the slot too. And Z can be used all over the formation. And Pitts can be used all over the formation as well, but including tight end. So in 11 personnel, you line them up at the X. And then if you want to do 12, you can line them up at tight end. So he has that versatility. So all this talk that people are like, oh, no, I wouldn't consider Pitts. If Chase isn't there, I'm absolutely looking at Pitts. To me, it's Chase or Pitts or trade back. I've had that stance for.
So no interest in you for Devontae Smith at all?
No.
Okay.
Okay, I am not interested in Devontae Smith that early. Okay, that early I would. I'd trade back. If we traded back, then yeah, I'd be interested in Smith. But to me, Chase and Pitts are, when you talk about a horizontal board, Chase and Pitts are in that top tier. It's them along with some other prospects, but none of the other wide receivers to me are in the same tier as Chase and Pitts. So I would, if you were to trade back to maybe like 10-ish, then I'd start looking at guys like Waddle or Smith. I think that's the next tier down after them. But I want Chase, but I think Pitts is right there with him. And I would be like, my excitement level would go for, if we drafted Chase, would be a 10. My excitement level if we drafted Pitts would be a 9.9. It's not really that much of a difference. So that's my stance.
Like if you look at it between Chase, Smith, and Pitts, I would say the certainty of one of them being on the board at 6 is 95% going to be Pitts. Like, if Pitts is their guy, if they feel like, I feel like he's their security blanket. If Chase and or Smith are gone, to where there's been so much hype for Pitts to Philly because he's from Philly, and just the need and the matchup problem, to where I feel as if Chase and or Smith are off the board, then I think they'll be comfortable taking Pitts. But if I had to make a bet right now on who out of those three I think will be there for the taking for them at 6, I would definitely think it's Kyle Pitts. I don't see anybody else coming up early past the Eagles or anybody drafting in front of them to draft Kyle Pitts. We could be dead wrong on that. But if that's the case, if Pitts goes first, and then that means that's going to guarantee you Chase and or Smith on the board at 6. And I'm not as high on Smith as I am Chase, but I'm not as down on Smith like you are. You know what I mean? I feel like he does. I feel like he does have elite traits, and he may have a frame that he can kind of grow into. But right now, what is he? 6 foot, 180, 175 pounds. It's just he can't get hit. And that's it. You know what I mean? But his play speed and his game speed or his like practice speed are the same. So, but yeah, I mean, Mike, you're dead right. I mean, how about whoever we hope that we draft starts day one and makes an impact? Please, fingers crossed. You know what I mean? Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't want to make like I hate having that eval or that take on Smith, because I really do like Smith a lot. I'm just trying to be like, when you're trying to grade out a prospect, right. It's just that on the field stuff, it's Chase and Pitts are just so clear-cut elite prospects, and Smith, even though I do think he is going to be a stud, you know, that it's that play strength, and I don't even care about his weight. I know the big talk yesterday was that he didn't gain any weight or add any weight to his frame, and a lot of people knocked him for that. I'm not part of that. Like, I get it. He's skinny. He's skinny at 170, and that could lead to his play strength being an issue. But if you watch him, Smith is so much stronger than what his body frame tells you. Like, he plays a lot stronger than that. So even though his play strength isn't like a strength of his, no pun intended, it's not as big of a concern to me as some others are making it out to be. I think Smith is going to be fine. Like, when you can run like he does and do all the other stuff that he does, route running, ball skills and things like that, smart in what he does. You're talking about a guy who has great talent, great traits. Like he's so similar to a guy like, I hate these comparisons. I'm just saying guys like Chad Johnson and Marvin Harrison who were elite route runners and had thin frames. So
Right.
it's not like their thin frames really got in the way of them being great players. And I don't think Smith's light frame is going to get in the way of him being a great player. I still do think he's a great player, and that's why I still have him at like a first round grade. So I don't want people to think I'm hating on him. I'm just trying to when you're nitpicking between separating tiers of the receivers, like I just Chase and Pitts are so clean to me. Like it's like as sure of a thing as anything that they're elite talents, they're elite prospects.
So let me ask you a question.
Has that. I mean, not Sertan. Smith has just that little bit of a knock where I'm just like, I got to put them my hair below, and so him and Waddle are just like right underneath them. But I still love them.
So to ask your question for those three, Chase, Smith, and Pitts, highest floor, highest ceiling.
Highest ceiling, I honestly think it's Pitts.
Okay.
I think Pitts has the highest ceiling. Highest floor, I think it's Chase.
Okay.
I think Chase has the highest floor. He just doesn't have many weaknesses.
Okay.
And like he's already day one, he's going to be a bonus. He's a good wide receiver one from day one.
Yeah.
So to me, that he's the safest. But I think Smith is safe too. When you run routes like that, as great as he does, he's pretty damn safe as well.
Jeff?
I'll say just for everything you guys have said, I agree with. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Eagles do, because if we expect a run at quarterbacks like a lot of the experts are expecting, and those three guys are available, it's going to be interesting to see what the Eagles decide to do and who they value as high. Because if they do value Kyle Pitts higher than these two other guys and they feel that he's the guy, their guy, I wouldn't be surprised if you still see them trade back and try to get extra compensation, because possibly the teams behind them, I'm not saying out of the top 10, but some of the quarterback desperate teams like the Denver Broncos or the Carolina Panthers or one of those teams, if they want to make a run at one of the quarterbacks, trade up to them at 6. Eagles can get some extra compensation, possibly an extra second rounder. Some people feel that's the right compensation for trading back that far, and you still get your guy with Pitts. But I like Pitts, and I feel he's going to be a great talent in this league. I just hope they do their due diligence and evaluate these two other talents before they write them off. So,
yeah.
And once again, we don't know who's making the actual decision making, if it's Howie or Lurie, or who's making the final call, if they're actually going to listen to these scouts. So hopefully the scouts do their job and tell them the right decision.
That's a good point. Like, it's our decision makers, aka Lurie and Howie, are they actually going to listen to our scouting department? Because that's been one of my big knock ever since that article came out, or like all those reports. Like, our scouting department, I really want to vouch for them, because based on the reports we keep hearing, like, they're doing their job, and the scouting department seems like they're fine. The problem is Lurie and Howie. Yep. They keep reaching for these other prospects that they like instead of listening to the scouts who do their job is to evaluate talent. So let them evaluate, and then make the decision based on what they recommend. And they Lurie and Howie don't listen to them, and you gotta hope that they start to.
So the more I sit here and thinking about it, I mean, I know Jeff didn't get the answer to the highest floor, highest ceiling, which is cool. Cool. He completely did.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were just basing off of what you guys were saying. I didn't realize you were actually asking me the question. My apologies.
No, it's cool, Jeff. It's cool. So for me, real quick, to answer that question, highest floor, Chase. Highest ceiling for me is Smith. And the more I think about it here, I think they may take Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase. Think about Shane Steichen, where he came from. He came from the Chargers. Keenan Allen, move him around, elite route runner. And if Smith can grow into his frame and can get more and can get thicker, can get bigger. I think his straight line speed, once he gets going, is slightly more explosive than Chase, and the route gets better.
Top end. Yeah.
So that's why I say I think he has the highest ceiling. Where I think Pitts is kind of in that. I wouldn't say Pitts is a boom or bust. I still think he'll be productive, but I mean, you really have Pitts as almost Travis Kelce-esque type. You know what I mean? Where Chase is more of a more explosive, a little bit bigger Steve Smith, where Devontae Smith is just, I mean, imagine Marvin Harrison with elite speed. You know what I mean? That can cut you up, and just a more explosive Keenan Allen. That's what really Devontae Smith could be. And if you think about the system that Sirianni came from and how they like to move wide receivers around, I think you may be more inclined to see them take Devontae Smith over Chase, because I think Smith maybe is a little bit more versatile from lining up in the slot, things of that nature. And if you really think about Pitts, I don't know, you can speak to this, Chucks and Jeff. How is Pitts as a blocker? Because you think Sirianni came as an OC in Indy, they ran a lot of 2 tight end sets. And I mean, they had Jack Doyle and what is the other guy's name? Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah.
So I mean, do they really?
He's solid. I mean, he's not like a great. What's the thing? Like, he's not like an elite blocker or anything. But you gotta keep in mind that he wasn't asked to do that a lot in Florida, because why would you have him block when he's that great of a weapon? So like the context, you gotta consider context. The fact that just because on tape he doesn't show great technique with his blocking, doesn't mean that he can't do it. No. It's just they don't ask him to do it a lot. So he obviously has the frame to do it, and he's adequate enough. He's solid enough to hold up in 12 personnel. To your point about them might wanting to take Smith over Chase, I don't know if that's correct, because you could make an argument that with Indy, look at Indy's wide receivers outside of T.Y. Hilton. They're all bigger frame wide receivers with good size and more physical. So so it's possible they're looking for a wide receiver who is more physical. And now I'm not saying you're definitely wrong. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, who knows what they're leaning toward, because you can make an argument for either or. Steichen had Keenan Allen, who was a great route runner, but then Sirianni, he had all those guys. He had Michael Pittman. He had the one wide receiver in the one that broke out a little bit this year.
Not Paris Campbell.
No, not Paris Campbell. The other one, God, I can't. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. The other one that had a good season. They both have good size, so we'll see. I mean, we'll definitely see how it plays out. I think it's a good debate. Now, we're talking about those guys. Where do you guys and the fam listening? Thank you for listening, tuning in. Definitely, again, hit that like button, subscribe, follow, share. Where do you guys put Jalen Waddle into the mix? Where did you think? Like,
by the way, you're talking about Zach Pascal. That's what you're talking about.
There you go. Thank you. Anyone want to go Waddle? Because if not, I'll go. I don't know if you guys Waddle.
I don't. Waddle is. I think he's third. I think he's clearly behind Smith and Chase, in my opinion.
Not everyone agrees. That's the interesting.
I know.
There are pretty smart people out there that like Waddle more than they do Smith.
Okay.
What do you think, Jeff?
I would say he's a tremendous talent, and I would say he's definitely one of the top wide receivers in the draft. But if he's your guy, then you definitely need to trade out of the top 10, because he's not. I honestly don't feel he's worth a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
So, and I would say you probably get better value for him down there. So you get extra compensation if you feel he's the best wide receiver in the draft, or fit your system better, and you feel he's your guy. Trade down far enough where you think he's not going to get selected and pick him. But 6 is way too high for Waddle. I would say no disrespect to him at all. I understand before getting injured he was the number 1 receiver on that team, but hey, things change.
Because his line's pick 7.
I kind of agree with Waddle. I think To me, Waddle and Smith are in the same tier. To me, but if I'm not picking Smith at 6, sure as hell I'm not picking Waddle at 6.
Right.
So it's an interesting conversation. Like they're both really good. And I think Waddle's injury history, along with Smith having the Heisman season, kind of it made the mindset of a lot of fans to be like, "Oh, Smith is the guy. Smith is the guy," but you don't have a fair look at Waddle and see what he can do. Like he is talented, and we talked about last year. The hype was Ruggs, and I was never fully bought into Ruggs as like the wide receiver one. A lot of people did. They thought he was better. Like to me, Ruggs wasn't as better than Judy
That
or
was hype. There was a lot of hype last year.
However, if you compare Ruggs and you compare Waddle, Waddle's better. Like Waddle has just as much speed and explosiveness, but he has nuance to his route running. Waddle is scary. So I get the intrigue, and I think he's worthy of a first-round pick, just like Smith. And considering how teams fall in love with speed, I would not be surprised if Waddle goes in the middle of the first round. I wouldn't take him at 6. Taylor Bauer says here, I like Pitts, but we need a number 1 wideout. Again, we reiterate this all the time. Pitts is a wide receiver. It's just that they put a tight end label on him because he can play tight end, but he's absolutely a wide receiver as well. He plays both. So the whole notion of, no, we actually need a wide receiver. No, like Pitts, if you draft Pitts, I'm telling you, he will be your X receiver. He will line up at X. He will line up in the slot. He did that all the time in Florida, and he succeeded and dominated. So the whole notion that Pitts, would only be a tight end, that's not true. He's a weapon, just like guys like Kelsey and other guys like Kittle. They don't line up at just tight end. We got some other guys. I mean, a lot of good comments here. Talking about the different, like about half of the people here in the chat are for Smith, and half of the people are for Pitts. So it's a good debate, and it's good to see. Like it's good to see the divisiveness because I like the conversation. I really like the conversation that we're getting out of this. Any other prospects you would consider at 6?
Well, after today's move, you can take out any quarterback out of the scenario.
Yeah. If a quarterback is on the board, that benefits them to see if Carolina or Denver wants to come up.
Yeah.
And you just hope that either a combination of Pitts and or Chase Chase will be gone. Pitts and or Smith may still be there at either 8 or 9. I mean, the only other player that I consider taking at 6 out of the ones we've already talked about is Penny Sewell if he's there. If Sewell is there, I'm not using 6 on Rashawn Slater. I'm not doing that. I don't think that the need is that deep. But if Sewell is there, that may be hard to pass up.
I was about to say, if you're Jalen Hurts, what would you want management to do as supposedly your starting quarterback into 2021? Would you rather have a possibly sure left tackle to block my blind side where I'm not running for my life and getting knocked around? Or would you rather have a playmaker to throw at you with Chase or Pitts or one of these guys? Because we keep on talking about the uncertainties along this offensive line. There's no guarantee that he's not going to be running for his life next season. We hope Mailata or Dillard, whoever they put in there at left tackle, is suitable enough to go in there and perform well for them. But there's no damn guarantee that's going to happen. So if they feel that they can solidify the left tackle and go in with the guys that they have or get maybe a wide receiver later on, if you're Jalen Hurts, what are you trying to tell the management to do for this coming draft if they give you any input?
Yeah. I mean, for him to be in this position after being the 53rd pick last year overall, to where you're one of 32 starting NFL quarterbacks and solidified that by the Eagles signing Joe Flacco today. You can call that competition, but it solidified Jalen Hurts as a starter for me for this year. I mean, if you're one of 32, I just think you play it quiet and see what they do. I think it's going to be a benefit if you go offensive line or if you get an elite offensive weapon, because I sure as hell don't think they're going to defense. And that's weird. Like, if you really think about this draft from a bird's eye view, we don't have like a defensive lineman at all that's in the top 10. Universally. I mean, on big boards, and that's very, very, very rare. To where these top tens, the top 10 players overall, on most people big boards. I mean, the first defensive players are corners. I mean, you may have Micah Parsons there as far as talent, but I mean, his off the field character issues definitely knocks him down a couple pegs. So, I mean, but as far as just outside of Micah Parsons, it's Surtain and Farley. I mean, there's really no other defensive players up there at all. I mean, I don't even know who who's the top prospect defensive lineman. Is it Kwity Paye out of Twitty? Is it Twitty Paye or Kwity?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I haven't touched many of the defensive prospects yet, to be honest. Trying to finish. I did a few of the top corners and safeties, and that's it. And I've been trying to finish up offense, so I don't know. But according to Ben Solak, he tweeted this I think last week. He said that the top of the defensive class is nowhere near as good as the top of the offensive class. Like it's offensive class side of the ball is so much better. So I mean, that's how boards stack up, and that's why I wouldn't take any of the corners in the top 10. I personally wouldn't. I personally wouldn't. Now, if you trade back, that's good value. You trade back a few spots, then the conversation gets interesting with the corners, with the other wide receivers. Like, that's an interesting conversation to have. So I wouldn't mind if they traded back if Chase and Pitts are not there. One of the comments here, I want to get to Taylor Bellows. Ramondre Stevenson needs to be our power back in the third or the fourth. Heck yeah, Taylor. That's right. Stevenson's my guy. You know that. Stevenson, baby. He's my sleeper. I think there's a chance he falls to the fourth. I do think. Now, could he be taken in the third? Yeah. Obviously there is. But I do think there's a chance he could be taken in the fourth. And if he's there in the fourth, because we don't have a fourth-round pick, man, it'd be nice to trade one of those 11 picks or a few of those 11 picks we have and trade up back into the fourth to get him. But, yeah, I love him. Bill Meadowbrook says, I don't like that he took a year off, talking about, Chase. Here's the thing. Like, I know that Tom and Bill bring this up, and a lot of people bring this up. To me, unless if there's a report saying that Chase has been doing nothing this season and just sitting on the couch getting fat, I'm assuming that he's training and working hard.
March 31st.
Is training the same as game? No, it's not. But if he's still working hard and working on his craft,
right,
the worst that you're going to get out of Chase is that he's a little rusty off the bat. That's it. But I don't care about if he's rusty off the bat. I care about how he is as a player long term. And long term, that rust is going to wear off quickly. If you're that elite of a talent, you're gonna shake the rust off quickly. So I don't care. To me, unless I hear that there's concerns about Chase's work ethic this past season with him not playing, I'm going to assume that he's been working and he's still the same level of talent that he was back in 2019. So that's not as big of a concern to me as some are making it out to be. He took a year off. So did a lot of other players. And as long as they're working hard, they're still the same player, right? So I'm not going to overblow that.
And I mean, that's a year of football, SEC football off his body. I mean, all these questions will be answered. LSU's pro day is March 31st, next Wednesday. So we're 8 days out. I mean, and then, like I stated, Kyle Pitts is running the Philadelphia Airways right now because he ran 4.46 yesterday. That size to play tight end, to run 4.46, probably haven't seen anything like that since why can't I think of his last name? Vernon Davis, out of Maryland back in the day. But even with that, I think Vernon Davis was on the top 10 pick. You know what I mean? I think right now we're in this cliche where we see, it's fresh in our minds, we see Travis Kelce just kind of have an offense kind of run around him. I mean, as centers around Kelce sometimes. It really did in the playoffs a lot. So you kind of envision that and you want that. But there's the thing with that is we got to remember Travis Kelce has so much speed around him that the defense is just like, okay, well, we're going to take that away first, because if we leave McCole Hardman open, if we leave Tyreek Hill open, I mean, that's 6 to the house. You know what I mean? Every time, or more majority more than not. So let's give Travis Kelce the underneath stuff. And then, I mean, he still is a problem in matchup in the red zone. He's a nightmare. But, I mean, you got to get that other guy. So let me ask you a question. Is it harder to get a number 1 wide receiver like a Chase or a Smith than it is to get production similar to what Kyle Pitts can provide? Which one is tougher?
I think the wideout. Just to see from past drafts with the Lions and the Raiders and everything else, and some of these high selections we've seen in the past, more of them are misses than hits. And at least the tight end position, I would say you can usually find suitable tight ends in the later rounds that can provide production. I would say look for us, Brent Selleck, a late round pick. I'm not saying he's on the same level as Kyle Pitts, but he was still a suitable tight end for us for a long period of time and was very productive in our scheme and getting yards and getting touchdowns, first downs, and he was still finding success with us. So the fact that we keep on missing on wide receivers left and right year after year with this franchise just shows me. But if you have better chance of hitting on the tight end, the wide receiver, you have a better chance on hitting on the tight end.
So here's the thing. Look at the Super Bowls for the past 10 years. How many of those Super Bowls how many of those Super Bowl teams have had, especially, okay, if you go back to even the past 5 years only, okay? How many of those Super Bowl teams have had an elite tight end? And how many of those Super Bowls have had an elite wide receiver? You'll see that in those Super Bowls,
the Chiefs have
elite
both.
Tight ends, elite tight ends, the Chiefs have both, but elite tight ends were the constant for a lot of those teams in recent years. Why is that? Because you're talking about mismatches in today's game, okay? It's not all about numbers and everything. It's about mismatches. Right. And when you have a tight end that is elite, like Kelce, like Kittle, Ertz was a couple years ago, not anymore, but it was a couple years ago when he was the best route running tight end in the game, best possession tight end in the game. You talk about Gronk, okay? They provide a mismatch no matter where they're lined up. Right. And so you can do a lot with those types of weapons. And so when you talk about the production of Pitts, is that harder to find compared to an elite wide receiver? It's a tough question because you're always going to want elite talent. Okay? You're always going to want elite talent. And when you talk about production, are you talking about stats or are you talking about what they bring to your offense? So what I would say is, if you have a talent like Pitts, he is an elite talent that will provide you the type of mismatch and weapon that Kelce, Kittle, Gronk, all of them, they did for their respective teams. And that's why Pitts it's so important, because when you need something to happen, you can put Pitts at tight end versus a linebacker one-on-one and get that first down. When you need a big play, you can line up Pitts at X, have him go vertical, and get a big play. You can line up Pitts in the slot against a slot corner with the size advantage and get that first down. You can do so much with him, and I'm not saying you can't do that with an elite wide receiver. I'm just saying that versatility, that no matter what personnel your package that you're in, that's why we're starting to see a trend, and it's not talked about enough. We're starting to see a trend of elite tight ends being more important than they were before. And so that's why I think that an elite tight end is more important than a lot of people are making it out to be.
And I kind of agree with the scheme fit as far as this, what would be more valuable to offense. So with that being said, then just trade out of 6, because that's the one part of that you can't justify. Like, you can't justify when we talk about which one is harder to find and which one is more valuable, and we can kind of one foot on one with wide receiver, one foot on the other with tight end. But the one thing we can't sit here and value and say is take the tight end at 6 then, because then at that point, just trade back. But then do you become eager to trade back? Do you hurt yourself with chances of getting more compensation, or if we try to play it cool, because I really truly believe there will be a quarterback still on the board at 6, and I think there probably a better than 60% chance that they will have offers for either Carolina or Denver to come up to 6. So if that's the case, then I would still say, okay, I'm way more comfortable with taking Pitts at 9. And I hate to do that because I'm just solely looking at the value from the wide receiver to the tight end position. But
he's not just a tight end. That's the thing. And let me ask you this. If teams knew what Gronk, Kittle, and Kelsey were going to end up being, if they knew, where would they get picked in the draft?
I'll probably say
top 5, top 10. If they knew they were going to get elite, they would be picked. If you knew they were going to be what they were going to become, if you were like, okay, these are going to be,
I would say top half of the first round.
I would say top 10. So you're talking about top 10. Why would you not take someone you honestly believe can be that? Why would you not take him top 10? And you're talking about trading back to 9. Sure, I would love hypothetically to trade back to 9 and say, okay, I'll just grab Pitts there. But this isn't Madden. I don't get a redo. I don't get to back out of my franchise and go back in and say like, okay, I'm going to redo this. You have a risk of having someone at 6, 7, or 8 to take Pitts. And the chatter, you don't think that teams at 7, 8, and 9, 6, 7, and 8, you don't think they're talking about Pitts being that type of weapon for them? Like it's a risky, talking about a risky kind of thing that you're falling into if you try to say, okay, I think because Pitts is a tight end, we can get him at 9, so let's trade back. That's risky. And we talked about Laurie and the Eagles back in 2012 waiting to draft Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, and it came back to bite them. You're talking about a team. Hold on, but you're talking about also a team that was also bit in the butt. They tried to wait for Dalvin Cook, and Cook got taken by the Vikings. When you wait to take your guy instead of just taking him where you're at, you get into trouble.
But we're not talking about waiting 13, 14 picks wherever the Eagles were looking to wait for Russell Wilson at. I would say if the Eagles trade down, they're only going to be trading back a couple picks. One of those picks is going to be a quarterback, most likely either by Carolina or the Lions or. Are
you sure? How sure are you, though? How sure are you? You better be sure. That's the thing. That's the thing. I would love if we traded back and took Pitts at 9. You better be damn sure. You better be damn sure that he's going to be there. Because
if he's not there, then Howie will spin it as, this is our guy all along. Typical fashion.
He'll spin it, but that's not a good. When you pass up on an elite prospect and you try to play that game, you're gonna get bite in the butt. Sometimes it'll pay off, but sometimes it won't. And it's just it's a dangerous game. I'm not saying you guys would be wrong. I'm saying that's a dangerous game to play. If you believe that Pitts is elite, just take him at 6. Just take him at 6.
And that's where I think that where we talk about the talent, and we talked about elite wideout versus elite tight end, and what Jeff just discussed, they like to wait. Howie always likes to sit there, and to his fault, to think that he can get the same talent from a player that he missed on later. So you have to think. Obviously, it all comes down to their board, right? It all comes down to their board. But if they feel as if the talent level between between Chase and Pitts, and then the next tier guys, if they feel as if they can get somewhere close, if wide receivers on their board, then if after Pitts a tight end or X, wherever you want to call them, if that just falls off a cliff, then that's going to be a tougher decision for Howie, because at that point you're like, if this is our guy and he's our 3rd or 4th or 5th ranked overall prospect, but then and as far as his position, if he's then position-wise number 1, then it makes it tougher for Howie, which is already tough as it is. I mean, for me, if I'm a GM, if I'm Howie Roseman right now, this pick isn't a problem. It's number 6. I don't have to do too much thinking. The scouting department is already going to tee up the guys and let the board come to me. I either take Chase Smith, Pitts, maybe a quarterback. I'm not sure. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback, but it's not going to be that hard. You shouldn't overthink it. You know what I mean? And that's why when I said it last year when we were doing this show, I said I will want Jamar Chase. I've already said that. I was on record when the pre-show for 2020's draft. Never thought we would be in a position to take him. Never thought we still may not be in a position to take him, but we're closer than what we thought we were. That's what 4-11-1 gets you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what 4-11-1 gets you. It gets you up here to where you don't want to be in this position again. You know what I mean? And they have to take into consideration who would fit more seamlessly into their offense. Whatever that scheme may be, we're going to probably be a little bit of what we see in Indy, probably be a little bit what we saw in with the Chargers, kind of be a blend of those two and probably some different concepts as well. And I just don't know. It's a tough one, man, because I feel like if I talk to 3 different people and they all have, one person has Chase up front, one person has Smith up front, the other person has Pitts up front, you probably can sell me on 33, a third, 99%, and they all be equal. And I don't know who you can take. So the one variable that we can't control is the picks in front of us. Yeah. And then what the board is going to look like when they're on the clock at 6. And then if there's going to be somebody enticing, because you know how we like to make moves, and if it's going to be enticing for him to trade back. I think the Lions, they may go wide receiver, they may go O-line, but I think a part of me also at the same time where the Lions are in a position like us, because I think if there is a quarterback, if a quarterback's on the board still at 6 and we don't take a quarterback, we take one of those skill position players, then that means number 7 becomes a very enticing spot. You know what I mean? So the longer a QB stays on the board up until 8, that team that has that pick before Carolina is going to be in a very envious position. So just think that if Detroit's like, okay, we're going to take this player, but then Trey Lance is still on the board, they're like, okay, well, hey, what do you guys want to give us? Almost similar to what Trubisky and what Chicago and San Fran did for the Trubisky pick. You know what I mean? Just to move up one spot, because then you're guaranteed you're getting your guy. So it's a lot of different variables for it, but we can sit here and talk all. We're like splitting hairs between Chase Smith and Pitts, man. It really is. It really is. It's an envious position for the Eagles to be at number 6.
It is, and I don't want I really hope people in the chat they take the context of our conversation into account, because there's no way I would guarantee any of this and say like those type of conversations I hate. Like everyone guaranteeing you're dumb if you have this person over this person. Like no one knows 100% how this draft is going to play out. We all could definitely have our takes, but having part of the conversation to see how everyone, views different prospects, that's the fun of it. So if you're the type that's going to be like, oh, you're dumb because you don't rank Smith this high, or you think Pitts is this good, then you're not welcome in this conversation. We take have an objective, constructive debate when it comes to this stuff, because I'm all ears, and you guys could be right. Maybe Smith would be a better pick than Pitts. Who knows? And maybe Pitts and his injury history will come into play, and that'll affect his career. That's absolutely possible. But based on what the talent level I see, Pitts is not just a tight end, and having that type of weapon is so valuable in today's NFL. Bill Middlebrook did have a question I wanted to get to. He said, would you jump out of the top 10 back to the pick 15 with the Pats if they gave up Gilmore in the deal? Then I'd be okay with Waddle at 15, plus an extra pick. Now you have a corner, wide receiver, and a pick.
A corner you have to give a new deal to, because he's on the last year of his deal. So
how old is Gilmore?
I think he's like 29 or 30. Let me check.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm about to check too. Yeah, if Gilmore was younger,
30 years old, he'll be 31 by like a week or two into the season.
I don't think I do that. No, because you're talking about a 31-year-old corner who, he's still in his prime, but he's at the end of his prime. So I don't know.
if we were a little bit closer to being a Super Bowl contending team and we needed that one piece opposite of Darius Slay, then yeah, I would definitely consider, because Stephon Gilmore is definitely a tremendous talent. But remember, we're in rebuild mode, according to Howie. And I would say, just looking at this roster right now, we're still far away from being a contending football team unless they can hit on some of these picks. So Gilmore does nothing for you for 1 year, and for you to lock him up to another aging veteran that we've been doing year in and year out the last couple of seasons, it's not worth it.
How does the money work? That's my biggest question. Like, I know he has a big contract. I don't think the money itself works.
Well, I think he's in the last year of his deal, so we would have to give him a new deal, I think, after this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Now, if a bunch of picks were involved, because going to from 15 to 6, that's a huge leap.
Yeah.
Huge leap. Go look up the draft order value chart. You can find it somewhere. It's an analytics thing.
He's in the last year of his deal. His cap hit is $15 million. So if they would trade him, I think we would only be on the hook for like $7 million. $7 million and then roster bonus.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. If you're talking about, like, if they included a bunch of first round picks, then I would start to consider it. But if it's only a swap plus Gilmore, no, I'm not doing it.
No,
I'm not doing that. All the way down to 15, absolutely not. There's another comment here. I haven't studied Asante Jr., but he's Robert California. nice avatar. What do you guys think of Samuel Jr. in the second? Think he'll be there 37. I think Asante, based on what I've heard from different evaluators that I follow, he's either like hit or miss. I know a lot of guys that love him. I know a lot of guys that aren't nearly as high on him. I personally don't have an opinion yet. I don't have an opinion on him yet, other than the fact that I think he's scheme limited. Yes. And so I don't know if I'd take him at 37. But I have to do more homework, because I don't know if he's exactly what we're looking for, because he's more of that short zone cover 2. And I know we play a lot of cover 2, but there's also a lot of different. I think Gannon likes to blitz a lot, and he likes to mix up the coverages a lot. So it's not just cover 2 we're going to be playing a lot of the time. And so he needs a corner that can do a little bit more than just cover 2. And if a corner can only play cover 2, I don't know if I'm picking him at 37. Like at 37, considering some of the other guys that are on here, like Stokes, Newsom was my guy. I know that a lot of people like Melifonwu, I forget how to pronounce his name. Like those are 3 guys that could be there beginning of second round that are legit talents. Could be really, really great. I don't know if I'd have a scheme-specific prospect like Samuel ahead of him.
If he has the ball skills that his dad has, that makes it a little bit more palatable at 37, because you need players like that to be able to take the ball away. And if you can design a scheme to where he doesn't have to be as responsible, he can let his natural instincts take over and finding a ball, more of a zone-associated scheme, then I would do that. But I can almost see that the move that the Giants did yesterday kind of screwed us, because the Giants low-key been having a good offseason. But the Dory Jackson one hurt.
Really? We'll get into that.
It's been decent. But I think if the Dory Jackson would have got out of New York and would have came here, I think they would have signed him on a deal. That way you take care of your starting corners. I think they're looking for another corner, DB2. So if they can find one in free agency, I almost can bet money that pick 37 is probably going to be a linebacker, because I think you can get
that early. You think so?
I think it's going to be the Cox or Dylan Moses.
I wouldn't hate it,
because they have nothing. I mean, Davion Taylor's probably another season away, and if you look at Minnesota's scheme, because that's where Gannon is from, and he hired a lot of coaches from Minnesota underneath of him. They're going to want to run a similar scheme. And if you look at that scheme, guess who they have studs at linebacker. So
I don't know if I'd go Cox that early.
I said Dylan Moses too, though.
Moses, what is it? What is the question mark around it? It's like injury history. Like he had a bad season last year because he was hurt all year, and so like you don't know if he's that type of player. I don't know.
The dream scenario is if David
Chris
Collins is still on the board at 37. If he's on the board, I'm running.
Yeah, true. That's true. There's another one. There's another comment here. Gold D. He says every corner in this draft is scheme limited. No, that's not true. Because the top of this class, they can play in more than one scheme, so that's definitely not true. I can tell you that. They're not, and now each corner has their specific strengths, but it's not like another scheme. They're severely limited. So I wouldn't like you talking about Sertan. Sertan can play in any scheme. He's better in a bump and run, press man. That's his forte, but he can play man if he wants to. He can play off coverage if he wants to. Farley, J.C. Horn, they can play in different schemes. Greg Newsom can play in different schemes. And so can Stokes. So I don't agree with that at all. I think that when you're talking about the later round prospects at corner, yeah, absolutely. But the top of the class at corner, I don't see them as scheme limited.
Steven, I was about to say, Steven Nelson got released today.
Yeah.
I would look into him. I mean,
Steelers.
28 years old.
How old is he?
28.
Yeah, I would look into him. Shore up a hole. And then, I would still, if we were to sign someone like Nelson, that would not deter me from still drafting a corner. We still need yeah.
You need corners. You need at least 3 to 4 decent corners.
Absolutely. What else? There are some other comments I wanted to get to, but I can't seem to find the one I was looking at. Goldie does think that Asante is better than Stokes. I disagree, but I have to do more work on Asante, so I won't have a firm opinion on that. Hey, Don, ready? What's your thoughts on Najee Harris? Woo! I talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Oh, me and Pete, you can just sit back for the next half hour.
I kind of wish we didn't have Miles Sanders right now.
Oh my God!
We had 2 picks in the first round.
I love me some Najee Harris. I think people that were here 2 weeks ago when Ryan brought up his name, I went off a bit, but I'm telling you, Najee Harris has been my RB1 since the get-go. I love Najee. He is a beast. And I want to say this, okay? When you have a guy like Najee Harris at that size that can move like he does, that is not common, guys. We talk about, I know Derrick Henry is huge, and he can, once he gets up to that top speed, you can't catch him because he's fast and he has really great top end speed. And that combination is not common either. But Harris is a different type of mover, guys. Harris has the feet, the quickness, the agility of a scat back that's at 200 pounds. Yet he's like at 220 plus. And he is big, he's strong, he's powerful, and he's versatile. They lined him up at wide receiver out wide and in the slot numerous times, and he ran routes. Okay, he ran routes. He wasn't just catching at the line of scrimmage or catching screens. He was running routes, and he was doing a bunch of other things. Like, he is a complete back. He's a beast. He is my RB1. I love Najee Harris, and man, if we were more of a complete team, I would absolutely be pounding the table for Najee Harris at 37. But we have so many other needs that
he's gone by 37 though.
Yeah, he's gone by then.
It's not a lot. We'll see. I mean, teams these days, they don't like taking running backs in the first round unless you're elite. Unless you're elite.
88 said, would you trade Miles if you can get it first and then take Najee Harris?
Yeah.
You're not getting a first for Miles.
Yeah, I mean, if you could get where in the first though. Well, the thing is, okay.
Even a late first, you're not getting. Because
I would trade Miles for a first.
Oh, I would take it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Najee with the first though, because I would take one of the other positions we need more. I love Najee, but there's just so many holes on this team. That's the thing.
But I'll say, if Najee is as good as a player as he is a teammate, I would take him in a freaking heartbeat. I'll say just the fact that he missed his flight and drives 9 hours just to go watch his teammates' pro day that he's not even participating in?
Yeah.
He's a freaking locker room leader, man.
Oh,
I would say that's just dedication to me. I would say that's a true friend, a true teammate, and anyone that drafts him is gonna be lucky to have him in their locker room.
absolutely. I love Najee.
Yep.
Love Najee Harris. Love Najee Harris. I will never stop. Even if he gets drafted by a rival, I'll say this now, I will be cheering. Yeah, it was the same thing with me and Saquon. I love Saquon. I hate that he's a giant. # free Saquon. But I'd say I'm still a big fan of Saquon. No matter where Harris goes, I'm going to be a huge fan of him. I love his game. He is so good. Any other draft thoughts before we transition? We're at the halfway point. Guys, if you're tuning in just now, we've been talking about draft for the first hour. Draft for the first hour, talking about top prospects that the Eagles should target at 6. So chime in, comment, let us know what you think. Let us know if you think that the Eagles should take Pitts at 6, Chase, Smith, anyone else. Let us know. We're going to transition to free agency now because I know you guys were on last week. Obviously, I wasn't on. But let's talk about what's been going on with the Eagles and the division and anyone else. Any other signings you guys want to get into? And in the chat, if you want to comment too, any free agent signings you want us to talk about. But in the second half, real quick, brought to you by Counseling Center at Sunrise Detox. Make sure you hit them up at 856-651-8117. And also Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Remember, our poll question was brought to you by Body Check Wellness. Give them use promo code A2D for 20% off. I did see this. Chucks, did you watch Javonte Williams from North Carolina? Of course I did. Javonte, and I'll just get this off my chest. Javonte Williams is not talked about enough because honestly, Javonte could in years from now, Javonte Williams could end up being the best or one of the best running backs out of this draft class. He is that good. You're talking about a guy who doesn't get the talk that it's always about Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. But Javonte Williams is just as good as either of them, guys. He's a baller. So he's gonna get picked in round 2 or 3, but the team that's picking in round 2 or 3 is gonna get great value because he has great potential. He really, really does. So yes, Javonte is amazing. But yeah, free agency. So did the Harris signing came after the show last week, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, let's dive into those talks because we talked about it. I know the poll question last week was, whether the Eagles had to sign a big name defensive back, and they ended up doing it. I was always talking about Malik Hooker because he would be at the price level that the Eagles could get. But to my surprise, it only cost $5 million to get Anthony Harris. Yep. So that's amazing. I'd gladly take Harris over Hooker. So what are your thoughts? We'll start with you. What are your thoughts on the Harris signing? And how do you think it'll affect the draft if it does at all for the Eagles?
Nah, that doesn't deter me too much. I mean, I like to sign it for Harris at $5 million. Wish he was a couple years younger, but it's better than what we have. You know what I mean? But I'm shocked. Like $5 million for 1 year. So does the 1 year bother you? Is it, or you just think that's because they were in a position cap wise that they couldn't extend them, or do you think that was more in Harris's camp? Did they want
more in Harris's camp?
Okay.
That's more in Harris's camp. A lot of these players you're seeing, with the way the cap is and the way the teams aren't throwing out a lot of guaranteed money. A lot of these players want those bet on me, prove it type of deals. So I think that I don't think the contract length is going to deter them a little from signing him, because if he has a great season this year, they probably extend him with the cap going up as much as it is next year.
That's a good point. I mean, that's a very, very good point. That's why we've been seeing a lot of the 1 year deals, and with everything going on, we've seen a lot of free agents just re-sign with their original team.
Yeah.
And I forget who it was that said expect that, but they said that don't be surprised to see a lot of players doing that, and they have been. I mean, Aaron Jones went back to his team. There were a bunch of others
But
now.
Juju went back to his team.
Juju went back to his team. So it's kind of crazy, but I sure am glad we got Anthony Harris that early. Or at $5 million. Jeff, what's your take on it before I give mine?
I like the signing. Like Pete said, he's definitely an upgrade over what we have at the moment. He's a veteran safety in this league who just a couple of years ago led the league in interception. So he's a little bit of a ball hawk. He's also a tackler. I would say he's a guy that knows how to tackle, which something we're missing in that secondary quite a bit. I think he had over 100 tackles last season. So I'm okay with the move. It was cap friendly. The deal was very friendly for our organization with the current situation that we're in, and he brings a leadership and he brings that experience to that core. And with the uncertainty of Rodney McLeod and some of the other guys and Kayvon Wallace, I would say he's definitely a guy that brings experience to the locker room and a guy that I feel is going to make a contribution. As far as the draft, I feel this move somewhat doesn't force you to take one too terribly early. I would say because if it doesn't pan out with him, they move on from him and most likely McLeod after this season, and then you look for either a veteran next year or you have that draft pick that you selected this season, maybe move in the following year. So. We'll see a lot of what ifs, but right now on paper at this time, I would say I feel it's a decent signing.
I think I'm more excited for this signing than both of you, but I think it's because I've been waiting for a center fielder, a back end safety for a long time.
Yeah.
So I love the signing because it fills that role, and I know I talked about it weeks ago, and that's why I wanted Malik Hooker here, but. Man, Anthony Harris on a 1-year deal, it's perfect. You let him play it out, see how it goes, and then you go from there. If he balls out and wants to stay here a couple more years, sign him for a couple more years. If he doesn't, then he's gone. But I think that people need to realize that this helps because Rodney McLeod's injury is an uncertainty. And with McLeod being the only safety that can really play single high or play on the back end, deep, you needed another guy who can do that. And so now you have Harris, you have McLeod when he comes back, and you have Kayvon Wallace in his second year, where you can use Kayvon Wallace in the box, covering the slot, and making running havoc, running all around the line of scrimmage like he does best. And that's going to be great. Our safety room now looks pretty damn decent. Yeah. I still think you draft a safety, but not early. I agree with you, Jeff. Yeah. And that's a good thing. That's an absolute good thing. You can focus on other guys. You can try to look at maybe in the third round. You try to look at guys like the guy I talked about, Andre Sisco from Syracuse. Try to look at Richie Grant, who a lot of people like, as a do-it-all type of safety. So there are still names in the third round that you could get at safety to develop behind McLeod and Harris for a year and groom them. So I love that. I love that move. I think that it gives us the ability to go into the draft and just focus on taking the best player available. You still need a corner. We talked about Steven Nelson. You need a corner to be able to, fill that hole on the other side of Slay, at least in the short term. So I do agree with that. But hey, it's a good move. It's a good signing. I loved it, and I think it's I don't want to give Howie and Lloyd credit right now because I'm so mad at them, but gotta give them credit. They pulled off a really, really good deal here. So I really, really love it there.
I liken it to when Jim Schwartz came in at 16 and they go down and got Bradham, the Otis McKelvin. Obviously McKelvin didn't work out, but it's a new system. You want to get a player that's familiar with that scheme and then be able to put guys and assimilate it on the defense in the right position. And I think outside of this Anthony Harris being just a skillful player, more smart than athletic, just him, and himself putting himself in the right position, he'll be able to put players in the right position with this defense. You know what I mean? Because this isn't going to be that typical Jim Schwartz basic vanilla defense that's very simple. I think there's going to be some complexities to this defense and to this scheme. And Harris is the guy that could be a true free safety and look at everything and put guys in the right position and get them lined up.
Yeah. Robert California, that leads to this comment. Robert California says, when McLeod comes back, does Harris play Jenkins' role?
No.
I think, guys, you have to realize that Jenkins' role was a role that
he made.
Schwartz made specifically for Malcolm because he could do it. There's no one else. Everyone says, like, who's going to be the next Malcolm Jenkins? There's no one else that's going to be the next Malcolm Jenkins because there's only one Malcolm Jenkins. And Schwartz made that position, that role specifically for him. We needed a guy who can play on the back end, make the calls, line up people right. As much as we wanted and hoped Mills could do that, he couldn't. Mills could not get people lined up. And you need someone like Harris, like McLeod, who can line these people up in the right position on the back end. I mean, we lauded Brian Dawkins so much because of his intelligence back there, the leader of the back end of the defense, making sure that the defense was lined up correctly. And so we need a guy like that, and Harris is that. He's a great back end safety. Well, I want to say great. He's on the back end of his prime, but he's a really good back end safety, and I just love that signing because it shores up a need that we've needed. So it's good. I know that Chrome will be on. Well, let's add him right now. Chrome, you good?
What's up, fam?
What's up, Mr. Disney birthday boy? Happy belated birthday.
Thank you, folks. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
We are talking right now about the Eagles signing of Anthony Harris from last week, as well as other free agency news, whether it be Eagles or not. But did you want to give your take on the signing of Anthony Harris? I know you've been out. I know you've been out at Disney, living it up in the Mickey Mouse world.
I gotta be honest, boys. I have been so isolated from everything, and you guys know this. I didn't even know that we signed Anthony Harris until you just told me. I swear to God. I mean, you can't miss out on a guy like Joe Flacco. You know immediately. You could be hidden under a rock, and somehow that message is going to make it to you. But listen, I mean, at this point, there's nothing that gets me incredibly excited about what we're going to be doing here. I've kind of stood tall on the I'm looking at more of some guys that are going to be some quality and depth signings and things like that. I'm not expecting anything too crazy. I have no problem with the signing of Anthony Harris. Flacco, another one. It's not bad. It's a guy with experience. It's a guy I think that doesn't intend to come in and expect to start, which is I think what they're looking for at this point. So, and you know what? On top of the alleged Deshaun Watson name being flown out there for the Eagles, I think we could finally put that to rest. Thank God at this point. So,
absolutely.
For now,
it's great points, and we can segue into the Flacco signing. So let me ask you this. I know you kind of touched on it, Chrome. Do you guys believe that the Flacco signing, because it was what, $3.5 million guaranteed for and $4 million total salary for the 1 year? That's a lot. That is, if you're talking about a QB3 on your depth chart, which is what he would be if the Eagles drafted a quarterback at 6. Do you believe that pretty much dispels the notion that the Eagles are in the running for a QB at 6? Or do you think Laurie and Howie would still stay true to the QB factory that they preach and consider a QB at 6?
Personally, for me, I could see the QB factory still happening. They've given me no reason to believe anything. Coming into it, we felt like Carson might be on this team. That clearly didn't happen. Then it was we're going to have a competition at quarterback. Then it's we're going to back Jalen Hurts all the way. Then it's let's start turning the rock over and look at Deshaun Watson. I mean, they have been all over the place. It's almost like what is it? Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Charlie Day, where he's got like the board and he's trying to figure everything out and everything's crisscrossing. Like that's what I feel like. That's why, like, when I said, guys, I didn't follow it too closely because I didn't expect us to do much of anything, and I still feel that same way. I'm not going to drive myself insane trying to piece together what these guys are telling us. And again, I will stay fast on more so Jeffrey Lurie than Howie, because to me, Howie's just a mouthpiece and a yes man. I don't trust the direction of this organization because I don't think this organization has a direction in mind for themselves. One day, this is how we're feeling. The next day, this is how we're feeling. It's all over the place for me. As far as Flacco coming back, though, listen, I mean, I guess it's a cool story. Local kid, hometown kid, team that he grew up loving. Chance for him, whether he's winding his career down or a chance to come back and at least wear the midnight green for a little bit. Cool story. This does solidify to me that whether it's Jalen Hurts or somebody that they draft, that I don't think Joe Flacco is going to be a part of a quarterback competition. But would not shock me if they draft a quarterback at 6. People were down on Justin Fields and people don't say they don't want him. I feel like he's one of those guys that Jeffrey Lurie could very easily be watching film and falling in love with. So, no, I don't think that this totally dispels the possibility of them drafting a quarterback at 6.
Jeff, Pete, opinion?
I would say Chrome has some good points, but I just feel this move. I feel the reports that came out a couple weeks ago that Lurie is telling the front office and the scouting department and everyone in that organization to try to find pieces to revolve around Jalen Hurts. And I kind of feel this move kind of proves that a little bit. The fact that they're bringing in a veteran quarterback that, like Chrome said, is not going to be a threat to his starting position unless Hurts gets hurt in the season, that he has to come in and fill that role. And a guy that's been in this league and knows what it takes to win, being a former Super Bowl winning quarterback, to help mentor Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying the Eagles don't draft the quarterback. They might draft the quarterback in a later round just for depth purposes or another developmental guy to try to be that quarterback factory and try to move on from later on. But I kind of feel this move, we can, in my opinion, can move on from them. The talk of drafting a quarterback at 6, in my thoughts.
If they really like a quarterback at 6, I think they will. But you got to think about it from the standpoint where the Eagles are at right now. They just traded away someone that they moved up heaven and earth 5 years ago to draft. So Jeffrey Lurie is looking and saying, like, listen, we need to prop Hurts up because Hurts is a likable guy. You know what I mean? He's a leader. He's a type of leader that this fan base would want. I mean, because he's just a go-get-him type of guy. He does everything like a la Ken Shamrock at 110%. You know what I mean? So, but that's why I think Lurie is he's the optics right now. If and he has to think about that. The optics right now, if he takes another quarterback, they take a quarterback at 6, especially when however he did it, got a message to Chris Mortensen that said, I want to like minimal QB competition. I want Hurts to be the guy. I want to see what we have in Jalen Hurts. And to be honest with you, it behooves them as the Eagles organization for Hurts to be successful. We talked about this last week. On the field and off the field, the biggest wild card in this division is Jalen Hurts. How he plays, because if he can exceed our expectation, then this team is a lot quicker to being a quicker contender, and the rebuilding process may be over. You know what I mean? And we all see what this team can do when Howie does have some money and it has a QB that's playing at, not want to say the elite level, but a very good starting QB on a rookie contract. So, I mean, is it a chance that they could take a QB at 6? They could, but Howie and the Eagles would have a lot of explaining to do if they did that. A lot of explaining to do.
A lot. Yeah, I mean, it's what I think is going on now. I don't want to guarantee anything. Like, I would not guarantee one way or another. I don't know what Lurie and Howie are doing with this organization sometimes. But based on what I'm inferring, is that report that Laurie wants to build around Hurts is legitimate. I think there's some truth to that.
Yep.
I think the press conference a few days ago when Howie remained non-committal to Hurts as naming him the starter, I think that was a way to posture and to get some leverage back in the Eagles' end so that people don't, teams aren't all like, come the draft, they're not all like, oh, the Eagles are definitely not going to take a quarterback, so there's no need for us to trade up. So
Right.
I think that how we did posturing, and I think this is because I don't think Flacco signs on with that deal to be a QB3, and I don't think the Eagles give him that much money to be a QB3.
And
I could be wrong.
right.
I absolutely could be wrong. That's just my gut feeling. So I think I'd probably say 65% of me is saying that I'm 65% sure that we are not taking a quarterback at 6. But as I told my friend, I'm that sure of it. But then I've got that little devil on my shoulder whispering in my ear like QB factory, QB factory, QB factory. And so it's like I don't know. These guys that are running the organization could surprise us once again. So
Now,
I want to put it past
real quick to that point, Chuck's like Howie. This is kind of the same shit show that we've seen for the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, several months, I should say. If the question was posed to Howie in a press conference with the head coach, if Jalen Hurts is a starting quarterback, he easily and should have said, "That's not my decision to make." That's just plain and simple. I don't want my GM to name the starting quarterback or to say Jalen Hurts is a starter. That's not his job. You know what I mean? That's so when he should not even be non-committal. He should just non-answer the question. You see what I'm saying? Like why? And that would speak just as many volumes as him trying to be cute and coy and say, yeah, we're not, because like knowing Howie, he probably is looking at it like, okay, well, I don't want to commit to Hurts because that may hurt our position in the draft. You can do the same thing by saying nothing, and you don't show your cards either way or the other. Nobody knows what you're going to do. You know what I mean? It's just I just had that thought as you were talking, you were giving your point. That's just me.
Can I backtrack real quick with you, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Please do, sir.
Just to backtrack real quick on the Anthony Harris thing, just a quick reaction to him. What I do like about him is he's physical, which I think is a strong suit for this team in a secondary that has a difficulty with tackling. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot about him, and he has some versatility. And I like the fact that I know he had a little bit of a down year last year, but he does have a capability to pick off a football and create a turnover, which on this defense has seemed like it has been missing for a long, long time. So taking his physicality into account, and it doesn't seem that it gets him in much trouble. We talked about Jalen Mills time and again, right? Physical corner. However, and we thought that would translate well into the safety position. However, he gets beat a lot. He gets blown up a lot, and sometimes the physicality can the propensity to try to make the big hit with him could get him into trouble positioning wise. I don't feel the same way here in terms of Anthony Harris. So again, it's not anything that's going to blow your doors off.
Right.
But I do think that this was a solid signing for this team. It's the kind of free agent signing that I would expect, and not say I would get excited about, but it makes me happy to see that they're adding a guy of his caliber.
Yeah.
For the constraints that we have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he was a solid pickup for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a respected signing. I think it's a signing that's around the league where it's like, okay, that's a good job.
And listen, he's played on good defenses in Minnesota, very good defenses in Minnesota. So, he's held his own and he's contributed. So I think you have to take that into account of a guy who's played on very successful defenses in this league and has had his own success in his own right. So,
now go get Steven Nelson.
I think a part of me also at the same time where the Lions are in a position like us, because I think if there is a quarterback, we don't.
Whose feedback is that
in this league?
Whose volume was that?
No idea. It was like delayed too.
We've
Yeah,
had
that
some
happens.
weird audio issues this episode.
That's okay.
This shows me. But go ahead. I forget who was talking.
It was me. I was done.
It was Chrome. Talking about hairs.
Just wanted to backtrack on that one.
Yeah,
real
no,
quick.
I
Took me a couple minutes to kind of just think about what we're, I haven't digested it yet. Like I said,
No,
believe it or
I hear
not, guys,
you.
it is possible as a sports fan to go away on a vacation and totally be turned off to the world.
I don't know what that's like. I don't know. I'm envious. I do not know what it's like. Even when I was on my honeymoon, there were times when I had to be pulled back in just for a little bit. So I don't know what that's like.
Where did you go for your honeymoon again?
Fiji, man.
Yeah,
Fiji.
there's no way.
Yeah.
I'm unplugged if I'm in Fiji.
I'm with you, bro. Listen, I had lots of steak dinners, lots of Mickey Mouse time. We were good. I got on the Haunted Mansion, all the goods, the Carousel of Progress. Let's go.
Nice.
A little spaceship.
Rub
Earth,
it in, why won't you?
Space Mountain.
Rub it in. No, I tried to stay away for the most part, but there were some drama with my fantasy league that I'm commissioner of that I got pulled in for a day or two. So I had to tend to that. And I know it was like there were some it was during preseason of Eagles, and I know on my phone there were I would get updates and stuff like that. So I wasn't fully unplugged, but yeah, I was about 95% unplugged, but there was always that little bit.
Bro, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna say with love, God bless your wife, because if I was your wife and you were tending to fantasy football shit, I would have taken your phone and throw it over the side of the mountain that you guys were living on.
I wouldn't have blamed her either. Definitely wouldn't have blamed her. Not at all.
Mary's a saint.
Yeah, she is. She's a hero. So I know we'll transition to here. Pete, you talked about earlier the and I know you just got back, so we'll cover the signings, but you talked about the Giants and how you said they're having a good year. I mean, a good
Decent.
So far.
It's decent.
I don't know. I'm still up in the air because they're paying these guys a lot of money, and I'm not a big Dave Gettleman fan. I don't like how he built the roster, and I think he overpays, and I think his priorities are not always reasonable. So I don't. They've made some good signings on the defensive end, but they've also let their best offensive lineman go.
Yep.
So now their offensive line, which wasn't that great to begin with, is now back in shambles. And they signed Kenny Golladay, but they gave him a lot of money. That's a
well, I mean, typically that's what you do in free agency, though. Especially
it is, and that's absolutely what I'm saying. Is they gave him a lot of money to be the number one. All right, so now there's no excuse for Daniel Jones to not have a good season. If he doesn't have a good season now, then I don't think he's the guy. So he has to show out. He also paid big money to Dory Jackson. Mm-hmm. What was it 13?
3 years, $39 million.
Yeah, 13 per, something like that. That's a lot of money. I don't know if he's even worthy of that. Even in knowing that in free agency you overpay, I still don't know if Dory Jackson deserving of that. But I don't know. Give your thoughts, because I'm not saying I hate it. I'm saying that I don't know. I don't know how I feel about their offseason just yet. I think it's more. I know they re-signed. Who's it? The Leonard Williams.
Yeah,
they re-signed him. So I get it, and their defense was good last year. So now their secondary on paper looks pretty damn good.
Right.
What are your opinions on how they look so far? And do you think now, with the signings that they've made, do you think they can start to be in that conversation for the division? I know it's mad early. I know it's really early, but I'm just saying, do you think they're on track to at least be a division contender?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the offensive side of the ball, when you look at the wide receivers, you have Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and now Kenny Golladay. And you got Evan Ingram, and now you have Saquon coming back as well. I think really you made it a lot. You can look at it glass half full, glass half empty on Daniel Jones. Is the pressure off of him because he has so many weapons, or is the pressure on him now because he has so many weapons?
Pressure's on him.
I think the pressure's on him, but the defense as well. Patrick Graham is very underrated as a defensive coordinator, this defensive line. And with Adoree Jackson, Logan Ryan, I mean, we can sit here and say that Adoree Jackson and Kenny Golladay did get overpaid, but you also got to think that when we said that about Blake Martinez last year, when they signed him, and he had a really, really good year last year. So, I mean, it's not hard to say you're a contender in this division. We've seen what these teams are and what they put to play on the field. So that's not really saying much. But did they improve their team? Yes. Did they overpay? Yes. But that's what you do in free agency. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I like what Washington did as well. Signing Curtis Samuel, signing Crumb's boy, Fitzpatrick. I still think if Mac Jones is on the board at 19, they're running to the standard draft Mac Jones at 19. So, and Dallas, they did what they needed to do and signed Dak. And I mean, I think they made a couple moves, but they're kind of in a similar position like us, where they don't have a lot of money to move to maneuver and make their team better. So right now, Gettleman is with this team with the most most cap space in this division is throwing his weight around. And this year on the field, I think they'll be better. Now the money comes into play a couple years down the road to see if these guys are really going to live up to the contracts that they just signed for.
Yeah, and you keep on saying they overpay. Who cares what they paid? The one thing that's going to matter is on Sunday when they're playing opposite of our defensive backs, whether we can stop them or not. And right now, with the amount of talent we have in our secondary right now, we're not stopping shit. So I was saying, like Pete said, it's frustrating as an Eagles fan. We somewhat brought it up last week that it's frustrating that the rest of your teams in your division are finding ways to make improvements to their squad. While you're sitting here, we signed Anthony Harris and Andrew Adams and re-signed Adrian Killins, but right now with the improvements that these other teams in our division have made, right now, I understand we still have the draft in hand. Right now, I kind of feel we're in the cellar of the NFC East right now, as it stands today, with the amount of uncertainties that we have across our squad. And I'm not saying the rest of these teams are in the division are juggernauts, but a lot of these teams have quite a strengths and are a little bit, I feel, more in place than our team at this moment.
And think about it real quick. Dallas and us are in the same position, but what did Dallas do that we didn't? They drafted well. Yep. They drafted better.
Yes.
I mean, you much rather be in a position where you have that offense with that quarterback and be in that type of cap held position than what we're in, because like Jeff just said, we have some uncertainty here, and the Giants are a couple offensive linemen away from being a complete team. I mean, it all rests on Daniel Jones, but what I mean.
And that was my key, Pete, is, are the Giants contenders for the division? I think a lot's going to predicate on how the offensive line performs, because regardless, doesn't matter how many weapons you get, if you can't give your quarterback time to make a play and protect your running back, which we've seen is an issue for that football team, you got a problem. If they can make some tweaks on that offensive line and have a little bit more of a stronger offensive line, then for sure, I think they're in the conversation. I think Dallas is a much better team with Dak, and if Dak does come back and he's healthy, I expect them to be better. But to me, and whether you love Fitzmagic or not, reality is the guy is a veteran quarterback who finds ways. Does he take risks? Yeah, he does. He's a poor man's Brett Favre in terms of he's got a big arm and he's gonna sling. He's a gunslinger.
Yep.
But he makes plays. He makes big plays at the quarterback position, and I like his addition to that football team with Ron Rivera. And then you look at that defense, which to me is a top 1 or 2 defense in the NFL. That's going to help them out. That's going to help out that offense as well. We talk about it all the time, right? Good defense helps out offense. And I think that, to me, it's still Washington's team or division to lose. We saw what they did last year when they replaced Haskins and they ended up bringing back Alex Smith. They went on a run. They were able to play very, very well. And kudos to Alex Smith for coming back. But I think that Fitzpatrick is an upgrade over that.
Yeah.
Pete, will they possibly draft a young quarterback? Sure. If there's an opportunity there and there's somebody sitting there, absolutely. But, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the quarterback for at least this season. And I think that that's a luxury for them to be able to have that. So, no, I mean, are the Giants better? Yes. Are the Giants in the conversation for the division? Mildly, yes. Predicated on that offensive line. That could change.
If you look at Washington real quick before you go, Chucks, you get Fitzpatrick. I mean, they have a decent running game with Antonio Gibson. Their offensive line isn't the greatest, but it's stable. And now you add Curtis Samuel with Terry McLaurin. That's tough. That's tough.
To Jeff's point, though, without question, we're in the cellar of the division.
Yeah.
So, maybe they shock us. Maybe they absolutely, and that's another great point too. Mike Grimm makes. Fitzpatrick always gives the Eagles a problem.
Absolutely.
Always.
No matter what uniform that bitch got on.
He's worn 9, 10 different uniforms, and every uniform he's worn, he has always given the Eagles a problem. Absolutely. I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Maybe they shock us. Maybe they make some big moves for us. Maybe we actually draft well for once. Maybe we fill some needs, and maybe we draft some guys who contribute quicker than we expect.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll sway the division. There's a lot of question marks, though. To me, I look at the division, right, and I say, who has the least amount of question marks going into next year? And it's without question Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everybody else has a lot of questions to answer before they're in the conversation for Washington, including Dallas. So,
because Dallas offensive line, we're like 3 seasons removed for that offensive line being
falling off, man,
and it fell off a cliff.
Exactly.
And then what did that do? What did that do for Zeke, who was the focal point of their offense? I mean, I hate Zeke, but I still think he's a great talent, elite talent. But when you don't have the offensive line, and Zeke isn't known to be like a Kamara, CMC type of receiver, you're going to hinder his production. And so that offensive line for the Cowboys is definitely a concern because they're aging. Now, on the defensive side for the Cowboys, I know you guys hit on great points with Washington, and I totally agree. I still like them to win. To me, I'd still say they're the favorites for the division. I love just their all around balance on both sides of the ball. But for the Cowboys, they did sign safety Keanu Neal, but they're moving him to linebacker. So
really,
they're moving to weak side linebacker. So they still need help on the back end. What do you think with that coming back? And, as we close this off on the free agency part of this the show before we go to No Huddle, what do you think of Dallas? What do you think is their biggest needs if they're going to start contending for that division again with the Giants and with Washington?
O-line and secondary.
Yeah.
You need to protect Dak, and you need to find some way to get some stops. I mean, Dan Quinn's scheme may help some, but I mean, you still need players. You need somebody opposite Trayvon Diggs. I think they did sign Jordan Lewis. Obviously, I think they lost both their safeties last year, so they need some safety help as well.
They signed Neal over the weekend.
Yeah, but they're going to move him to linebacker because they can't. Yeah. You got Sean Lee and you got Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, and Vander Esch. And Vander Esch and Lee can't stay healthy. You know what I mean? So you can't. They're not reliable. So and Smith has reliability in coverage. So
Smith has had a bad year. Yeah, Smith hasn't been good the past couple of years.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's secondary and O-line. I mean, they don't really have a pass rush either, but their offense, when you have that covers up a lot of mistakes. When you can put up 28 plus points on a weekly basis, in most cases, that definitely hides a lot of those errors.
Anyone else?
No, Pete pretty much summed it up. I would say they need to build that offensive line like they have in the past couple of seasons that they used to have there in Dallas, especially like you said, with Zeke being the focal point, open some running lanes, and give Dak the protection that he needs to throw those weapons, because we all know that they have tons of them with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So Offensively, they need to get that offensive line back up to shape, and then on the defense side of the football, definitely their secondary they need to address. Which I would say if most likely with their first selection, if Surtain falls that far, they probably go Surtain at corner. If he passes that
they need to. They can't.
Yeah, if Surtain is not a 10, somebody reached, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They talked about. I know people were talking about how Dallas should take Pitts if he falls to 10. One, I don't think he's going to fall to 10.
Right.
But I get that you have to draft the best available. But man, like last year, I thought they were going to go defense. I thought they were going to get Chase on because they did an edge rusher.
Yeah.
They can't ignore defense again. They need they need a corner and they need someone. So I mean, hey, like, could they take Pitts? I could see it because they need a tight end, and maybe that is best available at the time. And so I can't say it would be a bad move, but man, if you ignore defense again, you better make sure you hit on all the rest of your picks on defense because they have so many holes on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
So many holes. Outside of linebacker and DeMarcus Lawrence, they need to fill that, I think. And I'm not even the biggest believer in Diggs. I know some are. I think Diggs is okay. He's solid. But I never thought he'd be like a standout corner at the next level. So I think he could be a good CB2, but they need someone else, across from him.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. So we got 20 minutes. We got a good amount of time. Do you have any other topics, football related, draft, Eagles, anything else, free agency, anything that jumped out to you in free agency that you want to hit on before we get to No Huddle?
Just on free agency real quick, it's just the length of these deals. I mean, we're not seeing 4 or 5 year deals anymore unless it's a quarterback. But even quarterbacks, those are more 4-year deals. Like, I think with the new money coming in, and I just think agents and players are getting smarter to get shorter deals, but they get higher APY per year and bigger signing bonuses. And teams are hip to it because they're not taking a longer term financial commitment. But it hurts for the Eagles because the Eagles love to do those dummy years, man. They love to do those dummy years, and they just don't have that luxury now. So that's one key takeaway I see so far, and with this free agency this year.
I'm gonna talk about my other guys, Miami.
There you go.
I'm very impressed with their offseason this far. I think that they've made some really good moves. I know we talked about his injury history a couple of weeks ago, but Will Fuller is a guy who, if he's healthy, is a major weapon for that team. Another weapon for Tua, who clearly, I think it's safe to say that Deshaun Watson is probably off the table for Miami at this point. So I really like Will Fuller as another weapon. Obviously, they went out and they made a couple of other moves. Bringing in Jacoby Brissett, I thought was a pretty solid move. Trading Shaq Lawson for Benardrick McKinney, I like that move for them. And I like Shaq Lawson. I thought he had a pretty good year for them. He's played well for Miami, but it's another upgrade. So I was really impressed with what they've done, and I think they're probably going to ride it out now and see what they have again with Tua next year. Adding weapons was a big thing, and strengthening that defense to help out the offense. So very, very impressed with Miami. And also, by signing Jacoby Brissett, that clearly tells me that they are not having a quarterback competition going into the year, similar to what we're talking about with Joe Flacco. Right. So,
yeah.
Two things.
Good offseason for Miami at this point.
Two things, Chrome. 2 questions for you. Well, not quite. One question, one take. One, you talked about them being out of the Deshaun Watson, the running. I think, and I've heard this, I forget who said it. I was listening to a podcast, and they were mentioning that don't be surprised if Miami is trying to play the long game, because Miami could be banking on the fact that Deshaun Watson is going to hold out this year. The Texans don't trade him, and then become available next year.
Sure.
And that's the game they're trying to play if Tua doesn't pan out. And they're trying to bank on next year to go after Deshaun Watson. So I wouldn't put him out of the running for next year. But for this year, yeah, absolutely. he's not part of the question, but he's out of the question. But 2, with them signing Fuller, and then we kind of talked about draft talk earlier and who the Eagles should target in terms of wide receiver. Do you think that makes wide receiver out of the question for Miami at 3? Because
No.
that would be huge in the Eagles trying to get Chase or Pitts or Smith or whomever at 6 if they're out of a wide receiver at 3.
No, I don't think anything's off the table for them because you got to remember they have another pick later on as well. So I think they go best available. And if the wide receiver is there, or if they like Kyle Pitts and decide they want to reach a little bit or trade back 2 spots and take Kyle Pitts at 5, I could see that being a possibility. Or if Pitts is, falls even a little bit lower, maybe trade him back to 7 or 8. I think there's a lot. Miami has a lot of flexibility, but I think that they want more skill positions. They want to get younger. Let's not forget, they still have guys like Hank Baskett at the wide receiver position there, okay? So there is definite room for improvement when you talk about the what's that? They probably don't draft. I don't know. They're at 3, but I don't know that. I don't know that
They could go too. They could go O-line too. I mean, they can go
O-line, yeah.
They could go O-line. They have a pretty good offensive line right now, though. I could see them going with Pitts and going with a two tight end set with Gesicki, which I'll tell you what, I'll take a two tight end set with Pitts and Gesicki any day. I think that's a hell of a 1-2 tandem. So no, I don't think anything's off the table for them, guys. And I don't even think a quarterback could be off the table for them. and I know it
QB factory too.
It sounds funny, but I could see that, and maybe Tua ends up being a draft day trade. Who knows?
Yeah.
All I know right now is Grayson is about 5 minutes away from letting loose on this damn show. So,
yeah. He is. He should be sleeping. I don't know. Did he just
he's a little chunky.
He won't go back to sleep. He was sleeping, but won't go back. This kid fights his sleep like no other. Like his naps last 30 minutes. 30 minutes, that's it, and he's up and about. He's playing. It's so hard to get him on a sleeping schedule. But he's on Sunday. He actually had a 3-hour nap, and that was a miracle. That was like the whole physical. So, man, this kid, he does not like sleeping. He doesn't like sleeping. But, yeah, I think we were talking earlier about Pitts, Chrome. And with Pitts, the reason why it would make sense, I hate to admit it, because I don't want him to go to Miami. I think Pitts would make sense, too, for Miami because Pitts doesn't just play tight end. He plays outside at receiver. Mm-hmm. And so – they have Devontae Parker, they have Fuller, but they could absolutely do things with Pitts and move stuff, those weapons around. Now with their coach, what's their coach's name? Now I'm forgetting their coach's name. Miami's
Brian
coach,
Flores.
Him being a New England, Bill Belichick protege, it's hard to picture him. It might be hard to picture him valuing a receiver that early because Bill Belichick never does. So, I mean, who knows? I'm just, it's just, it's just
Yes, but when I watch how this team continues to get constructed, they go after skill position players, which is something New England has never done until this year.
Yeah,
when they have finally realized that without Tom Brady at the quarterback position, you have to go after skill position players. It's inevitable. It has to happen because Bill can talk about his system all he wants, right? But at the end of the day, in my opinion, last year proved it. Yeah, that system might be great, but you got to have that quarterback in place.
Absolutely.
And he had the most perfect quarterback that he could have ever asked for to run that system for so many years. Now you're in flux. What do you have to do? You have to spend money and go out and get players at the skill positions to improve this football team. And so to me, hey, who was the real key behind the New England dynasty? If anything is proven to me now, I think that it's Tom Brady.
I think it's a marriage of both.
It is. Listen, it's a marriage of both.
Yeah.
But I think one carries their weight in hindsight a hell of a lot more than the other did.
I think the player, because the NFL is more so of a players' league. So I think no matter what, like I think that Tom Brady being the GOAT and as great as he is going to automatically carry more weight in terms of influence to the Patriots. But I think that I'm not saying any of you are, but I think we've seen a lot of chatter saying that Bill Belichick was never really that great. I think that's a bunch of horse crock, because I think that Bill Belichick also did a lot of things to help the team. So I think it was like Pizza. I think it's a marriage of both, but it's a players' league, so a player is always going to have more merit than a coach. Even though coaches absolutely are very important. It's just players. It's a players' league. It's not like college. But to your point, what you said earlier, me and you talked about. We talked about it in the chat. We didn't get to talk about it on the show last week. We were both off, but I absolutely love what Bill Belichick is doing, because it's kind of like showing that, like, hey, he needs talent. Like that team was so barren of talent last year, this past season, and they still kind of almost made it a little bit, but he needs talent. He needs receivers. He needs stuff on the back end. And with all the players coming back that opted out from 2020, all of them coming back, all the additions, with Cam actually getting a full offseason to study that system. Because if you listen to I Am Athlete, the show on YouTube or the podcast, Cam was a guest on there, and he talked about him being behind the 8 ball, because when he had COVID, he was out that week or two, and that caused him to fall behind. He fell behind in terms of following that system. And he said that, like, with the Patriots, they're like a machine. They go on without you. If you're injured, they just keep going. So, with Cam getting this offseason, I think they're going to be a lot better. I'm not going to say they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think it's not out of question to see them fight for one of those playoff spots. I think they'll be right there. I think they'll be a winning team. I don't know if they'll be a Super Bowl team, but I think they're going to rebound, because I think Bill Belichick kind of, like you said, he finally realizes he needs talent. He needs some players on the team. So I like what they're doing.
I think the East, to your point, they will be more competitive. It will not be a 2-team race this year.
Mm-hmm.
However, as much as they've improved, I mean, I look at what Miami has done this year, and Miami has also improved upon what they were last year.
Absolutely.
I would rather have Fitzpatrick on that team than Jacoby Brissett, just because I know what he brings to the team. And, I think until you watch him day in and day out, and I understand that he's a journeyman throughout his career, but he is a professional at the quarterback position. His value is in leadership and the way that he carries himself, and in his big playability at the quarterback position, even though he's a slinger. I think it's hard to replace that when you're talking about who's going to back up your young quarterback. But that being said, I don't expect this to be a 2-team race this year. I think that Miami's got a little bit closer to Buffalo. I think New England has closed the gap a little bit, particularly getting some of those players back, but they're still a ways away. It's another year older for Cam. I think that they still have a lot of concerns on that football team. And the Jets are the Jets. Let's be real. The Jets are the freaking Jets.
Garbage.
Yeah.
No, the biggest curveball with them saying they don't take Zach Wilson. Like, what do they do? I don't know. Because did Sam Darnold get traded on draft day?
I don't know.
I think this whole Deshaun Watson, and I know. See, I truly believed he was going to get moved, regardless of what the Texans say.
Right.
Before the draft. With everything going on now, it's a total wrench into everything. And ironically enough, if this would have came out earlier, I think this would have expanded Carson Wentz's market a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the timing of it, I think, is unfortunate. That being said, I don't know what the Jets, I don't know what's going on with that organization. I don't know what Joe Douglas is doing there. I don't get it. I'm not a Jets guy by any means, but it's painful to watch as an outsider to try to figure out. We're sitting here talking about what we're doing, and Charlie Day piecing all the things together on a board. I can't imagine being a freaking Jets fan right now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's back.
Man.
He's back. I don't know if you guys heard. He just crapped his diaper. He let out a big one. That's why my eyes got big. That one.
Well, you know what you're gonna be doing after the show?
I know. Yeah, Mary's going to get his diaper now. That's why I'm holding him. But any final thoughts on No Huddle before we wrap up?
So I'm just going to do this real quick for those who haven't seen it yet, but we know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't been able to find the time to sit through 4 hours for a movie yet. So
so good. No, that's why I was not on the show last week because I was busy watching Justice League.
Seriously, you blew off the show to watch the freaking Justice League cut?
Well, I had other things to do.
Oh, okay, you're excused.
Yeah, but because we had other things to do, I needed time to watch Justice League.
Gotcha.
Like I usually, if I start a movie past 9 o'clock, there's probably about a 75% chance I'm falling asleep. And I did not do this. I actually end up with more energy. So it's
awesome.
Check it out. It's I'm glad to see because I would say before Iron Man, I was more of a DC fan as a kid. Batman, the 80-minute series, comic books were all DC. I wasn't a big Marvel fan, and obviously with the MCU universe, the movies have gotten me into Marvel. I just didn't follow as closely as I followed DC.
Yeah,
I think if they do it the way that they can, that gap between Marvel and DC may be closed a little bit.
I don't know if I'll say that.
Yeah, I won't go that far.
What I've always said.
High hopes.
What I've always said, and I'll try to make this quick and then take that with a grain of salt. But DC and Marvel, they're just too different. They're different. And Snyder said it really well in an interview. Marvel, they have this big unified universe, which is great. They do this action comedy with heart, and that's what their movies are based on. That's their theme of the movies that they have, and it's perfect. No one's going to be able to do what Marvel does, but DC has their own style. Even when you go back to Nolan and the Dark Knight trilogy, it's not so much. It's the farthest thing from an action comedy. It's a gritty, down to earth, dark tone type of film, and that type of tone has carried into the other DC films. The issue with DC is that they haven't had a clear direction, and so they started off. I thought Man of Steel was a great movie, and I hate Superman. I'm not a Superman fan at all, but I love that movie because it showed a realistic take on Superman. Batman versus Superman, that movie was horrible. That was really bad. I hated what they did with that film. Yeah, God, don't get me started. And so that's when my faith in Snyder kind of dwindled. But seeing what he did with Justice League, I'm very satisfied and very happy to see what he did. What's a shame is that we're probably not going to get to see the other stuff that he had planned, and because WB doesn't want to go, Warner Brothers doesn't want to go that route anymore. But to anyone that wants to watch it, I do suggest it. Don't just because they're not Marvel doesn't mean they can't have great movies. They're different. They're just different. And so take it as it is. They're never going to be Marvel, but they don't have to be Marvel.
Speaking of Marvel, the announcement also that Black Widow is finally going to be coming out in July is very exciting.
And on Disney Plus. I can't wait.
Yeah, but don't you still have to pay the $30 for the rent it on Disney Plus? I think it's gonna be like Mulan.
If I were to pay movie tickets for me and my wife to go see it plus food, I'm already paying $30 to go see it.
Yeah, but it's on an 85-inch or however big those screens.
And I'm also in the comfort of my own home, getting to eat my own food.
Yeah, that's true.
The fact that we have a baby that won't sleep, I will gladly pay the $30 on Disney Plus to watch it.
That's what we're there for. That's what we do. Every once in a while, my parents will give us a date night.
Listen, you got a big TV. You invite a couple friends over. You all chip in. You pay the same price. You pay it, and everybody does. It's an experience. You have your own theater night at home.
There you go.
That being said, I'm going to the theater because I want to go fucking see it on a big screen.
Agreed.
So,
I think Don has the most.
King Kong and Godzilla next week.
It's tomorrow. Tonight. Tomorrow. They release it tomorrow.
Snap.
Wait, it releases tomorrow?
For some reason, I thought it was next week. I thought it was
next week. I got told.
It comes out on Max tomorrow?
It's coming out tomorrow.
Oh, snap.
Ooh.
Sucks has had to clear his plans.
Yeah, March
Ooh,
25th, you're
glad
right.
we were watching that this week.
No, wait.
It's Thursday then. The 25th is
It's
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah,
March
then
25th.
Thursday. So luckily, there's no show now on Thursday, Chuck.
There it is, Chuck. Last question before we hop off the air. Speaking of the 25th, I believe this is the right date, Pete. The NBA trade deadline comes up that afternoon. So, gut feeling, do the Sixers make a move? Do they end up trading for Kyle Lowry?
Give me Malcolm Brogdon before Kyle Lowry, and don't give away the fucking future.
I don't think you're going to have to give away – what? Listen. Kyle Lowry is a difference maker now to win a championship. Mm-hmm. I don't care what people want to say about how the benches looked, because at this drop of a hat, the bench could look like shit again. And listen, it's the regular season. When it's playoff time, having a guy like Kyle Lowry is what makes you not just a conference championship contender to get to the conference. That's what makes you a championship contender against anybody in the East and anybody in the West. That's what puts you on par with Brooklyn. I don't care what anybody says. And from what I'm reading now, we're talking rental players, right? It's one of the GMs around the league said that there's word or the feeling around the league that he will sign an extension this year and that his trade negotiations are essentially his free agent negotiations for next year now. That he would extend before the season is done, possibly this week, to any team he gets traded to. So, or even if he doesn't, he may end up extending with Toronto after the fact if he ends up staying there. Yeah. That was something I read a little bit earlier. So that to me is a game changer as well. If you can keep him for a couple more years, he'll probably make a few less bucks because he's a little bit older now. You can keep him and you have those four. You got Tobias, Ben, Joel, and Kyle Lowry.
Yeah. Then move Seth Curry to the bench. You know what I mean? That helps.
Danny Green probably goes in that deal.
Yeah.
You know,
I just don't want to get rid of. I don't want to get rid of Maxey. That's my thing.
See, now everybody's crying. Matisse, he's been here for a year and a half, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, he finally learned how to score." He scored in like 3 games. He scored in like 6 games his entire tenure here, pretty much. Everybody's freaking out that he's finally hitting his potential because guys, that's what we do. Josh Adams 2.0 over here. And I love Matisse's defensive game, but at the end of the day, there's not enough of a body of work and consistency. And if I have to trade him, I have to trade him to go and get a guy that's going to possibly bring me a championship this year, especially if it's true. If it's true that he's going to extend before the season's done with whoever he gets traded to.
I didn't realize that. If trading for Lowry means he's also going to be extended, that changes things. I think I'd be more open to that. The rental at the expense of so many future pieces, especially like I love Maxey, despite his struggles so far, being a rookie. But if Lowry is going to extend and mean he stays put for a few more years, that changes things. So I'd be more open to, if that's true, I'd be more open to that.
But some other names I like out there, if he can stay healthy because he's been hurt a lot this year. Otto Porter is another name I like. Mm-hmm. I love George Hill. I've been talking about him forever. I think there's going to be a lot more names out there than you guys think. It sounds like JJ might be getting bought out. Might get him on the cheap. I don't really love JJ Redick coming back, but listen, if you move Danny Green in a trade, that does open up a place for JJ Redick.
Opens up for it, yeah.
He doesn't make sense as this team is constructed now, but it does open up a spot for JJ Redick.
Would you be worried that it's too much overkill with Korkmaz, as in like a pure shooter who can't play defense, or do you think it's still okay?
You're asking the wrong person. I know people love Corky. I am not the biggest Corky fan. Right. He is. You could get 2 games, 3 games in a row where he looks great, and then he falls off a cliff for 5 games offensively. Oh. So, I respect the kid that he keeps shooting even when he's not shooting well. That being said, I'm just not a Corky guy. Not a Corky guy. I'm going all in this year, guys. If I got a chance to go and get Kyle Lowry and I can bring somebody in on a buyout contract, and I'm not saying necessarily JJ, but I can go out there and bring somebody else in on a buyout contract to fill some of those bench scoring needs,
Yeah.
I'm all in. I mean, if it costs me Max, I wouldn't get rid of both. But if it costs me Maxi or it costs me Matisse, bye. You got to give up something to get something. You know, I think you have to do what you have to do. The window right now is incredible for this team. It is really,
and that's the biggest thing. I think there may be a legit possibility that the Lakers don't make it to the finals, and that's the case. If you're facing any other team in the finals from the West, then your main goal is to try to beat the Nets in the East, and then figure it out.
You know, I think your two teams, honestly, the two teams I'm looking at that you got to compete with is Denver and Utah. And I might be out on a limb here, but a team I could see making a run in the playoffs so they can get healthy and stay healthy, I like Portland a lot. I think Portland is a really solid team. I think Dame Lillard has been an absolute stud this season. You know, he's helped to keep them in games and win games despite McCollum being out, CJ McCollum being hurt. I could see them making some noise in the playoffs and surprising some teams. Again, I'm not saying they're going to the finals, but I could see them making a push if there's a surprise team that I think could lay in the weeds and make a move late. But to me, this is the season that it's all ripe for the taking. Ripe for the taking, and get in there and get it done. Especially because Brooklyn, another year going into next year together, there's going to be more of a chemistry with that team. The longer you allow that team to be together, I think you got to strike this year and while it's hot and go out and make moves to get it done.
Cool.
Yeah.
By the way, Pete, you're wrong.
What?
Godzilla King Kong's is the 31st in the U.S. The 25th is in Australia.
Well,
no, on Google it says release date USA March 25th.
I'm on CNET and it's saying March 31st.
We need someone to clarify that.
Right here.
The movie release times.
That says USA.
Yeah, this is March 25th.
See, all the websites I'm saying is 31st.
Even if it was in Australia, just get yourself a VPN. And
there you go. Yo, BitTorrent that piece. BitTorrent.
Yeah.
So apparently the release date was changed a number of times. And a lot of what you're reading is from January of 2021.
I mean, and IMDb release March 31st.
I'm telling you right here. I'm looking at it.
March 25th.
Thursday, when Thursday comes around and it's not on HBO Max, I'm blowing up all your freaking Facebook messages.
I'm just reading off what Google says.
Honestly, I really don't care.
Yeah.
So before we go, so the $29.99 for the Disney Plus extended. You have to pay that every time a movie comes out, or you just pay it once?
No, you pay it once and you have it forever.
Right.
And what's that?
You pay it once.
I thought it's per movie.
No, you pay per movie, but once you pay for that movie, you can watch it a limited amount of times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but eventually it's released, like after 6 months or something like that. It's on Disney Plus anyway.
Well,
So
yeah,
basically,
I'm
you're paying $30 for the digital copy of it. Basically,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Until it's fully available.
To me, that's fine. I pay that. I would absolutely pay that, and I do pay that. That's what I'm talking about.
Also, guys, just an FYI, I'm finally not sitting on a floor on a mattress. I have actual furniture. Look at that handsome stud right there.
About damn
I got furniture.
I like the color.
Thanks, buddy.
Nice furniture.
It makes your complexion pop.
Hell yeah. You know what's amazing? I went to Florida and I didn't get any sun. It was cold. The last 2 days were cold. It was actually, when I got here, it was warmer when I got here on Sunday night than it was Saturday night when I went out.
Crazy. That's crazy. Well, it's about to get warm. Spring is here, so hopefully it stays. Well, gentlemen, it's been a blast. All four of us are back on. It's been a couple weeks since we were able to get back on, so good to have you on. Even though Chrome, we were a little late, it's fine. Better late than never.
Time doesn't exist in my world.
It doesn't. To all of our listeners and our followers here that tuned in, thank you so much. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, share all of the stuff we have at A2D. Remember, we are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts. Please leave a review. That helps us so much. We're on Twitch, Stitcher, all the whole nine. Our show is brought to you by our doc, Paul Vidal, of Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and the Counseling Center at Sunrise Detox. Call them at 856-651-8117. Tell them that Tom sent you. And remember, our poll question was brought to you by bodycheckwellness.com. Use the promo code A2D to get 20% off. And remember, when Riley Cote is on with the boys, there are special discounts that he offers. So always tune in to Hockey Happy Hour. Always tune in to all of our shows at A2D. We've got at least one show every single day. Every single day there's something for you guys, for the fam. We are bringing to you the best that we can. We are the best in the business, and we appreciate and love you guys for tuning in. For myself, Pete, Pearl, and Jeff, the guys here at Birds of a Feather, enjoy the rest of the week, and we will see you Thursday of next week. Peace out, guys.
Later.